Okay, in this short video I want to make a point why I think there's a problem in the dance world that's connected with the dance schools. It's an economical problem, and I'm not a dancer, just to say this if someone randomly got to this video without knowing me, but I'm together with a dancer for many years and I have many friends and students in the dance world, and I'm talking about the contemporary dance world, so I don't know much about other forms of dance and how the community works there. Okay, the dance world has the following problem. That is, in a normal capitalistic society, you have the principle of supply and demand. So if someone is in low supply but high demand, the prices go up, and vice versa. If something is in high supply and low demand, the prices go down. Yeah. So at the moment, all sorts of manual labor jobs are in very high demand, and the supply is lower than the demand. So if you want to have something repaired or made new at your house, or people want to build a new house or something like this, at least here in Germany you have to wait quite a long time, and that's very positive for the workers, because they can earn what is a good earning for them. So I read some article where one worker was saying this is the first time in like the 20-30 years he works that he can take the money that he thinks is really fair for his job. So that's good, yeah, for the manual labor jobs, and this has also something to do with the fact that these jobs are not very sought after anymore. Like, not many people want to become a carpenter or laying. I have no idea how this is called in English, to be honest. Like laying floors or putting windows and so on and so forth, or laying bricks, and this is not very sought after jobs nowadays. Like, people don't want to work in such physical jobs. It's too hard for many people. Yeah, so the people that do it, they can be sure there is work there, at least for now. Who knows what happens in 20 years? Blah blah blah. Okay, good. So in the dance world we have sort of the opposite. Like, the demand is not very high actually. Of course there are dance pieces created and so on and so forth, but the supply is much higher than the demand, because many people want to dance, especially women want to dance. It's a profession filled with passion, and this creates the situation that as a dancer as a, let's say, normal dancer, not someone that is like very known or something like this, but as a normal dancer, your possibility to negotiate is very low, because it's very easy to find another person that will do it for what is offered. And the thing that I think is very, very weird about the dance world is that often there are auditions and you don't know what is paid for the piece. You go to the audition, you go home, and maybe you are in the next round or you're taking for the piece. Still, you don't know what you will earn. This happens quite a lot. And of course, there can be the case that no one knows what money is coming out of the project, because there is no money that is there priorly before. Like, it's not funded by something, by the state or some agency or whatever. So every person that is part of the project has some risk, and basically the money that will come in from the piece, it will be divided through the people in certain percentages. Like, the choreographer gets this percentage, and dancer X gets this percentage, and so on and so forth. But this cannot really be the normal state, because people need to plan, people need to have some clarity. So the question is a bit like, who is the person that is taking the risk? Who is the risk taker? And if a piece is funded by the government, like if you're a choreographer and you get money by the government, then the ones that are taking the risk is basically the taxpayers. They are taking the risk that the piece is not very good and the state paid for it and blah 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 blah. That's the risk. It's not a risk where people are tremendously suffering, to be honest. So that's probably for the dancers. That's the best option, so that they know what they get, and the risk is taking someone else. Like I'm completely undecided about this risk thing. I'm just sharing a few thoughts. Because there can be all sorts of variations here. Yeah, it can be variation that there's no funding, or there's very little funding, not enough, and then maybe the choreographer takes the most risk, but he can also get the highest reward. This is the basic principle: who takes the highest risk gets the highest reward. And the dancers take lower risk, so they get a certain payment or a certain amount, like a certain from here up to there. So they have lower risk, but maybe also lower possible returns, and so on and so forth. But what I find very, very interesting, that I hear it all the time, or actually not interesting, I find it like very problematic, that I hear all the time these things that people go to auditions and they don't know what they're going to earn, they don't know if there is any money there, blah 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 blah. So people try to get all sorts of dancers to auditions, and only later they tell them. And I think that's not very, very ethical. I think that's very problematic, and that's very unprofessional. Like, things like money need to be clear, because people need to eat, and of course there are projects without money, and of course there are projects that are risky, but then just say it. Like, just say it. Okay, here we don't know what's happening money-wise, so we can't guarantee anything. Just write it on the audition. Just write it directly, and not later when people are already there and people realize, oh, there's no money here. Sorry, but I can't do that. I need to earn something. So goodbye, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you that I had to ride here for 2 hours or something like this. Yeah, that's highly unethical, I think, and playing with the time of other people. But the reason why people can do it in the dance world is because the supply is higher than the demand. So every year dance schools are creating new dancers, and I don't know if it stays the same or if more dancers are even created, and the bubble of dancers is even getting stronger, or if it's becoming less, or if the demand for dancers is going up or down or staying the same. I have no idea. I have zero numbers, zero statistics about this, but what I know is that the situation of many dancers is pretty precarious, that many dancers need to work in other jobs and are not very often on stage. And of course there are the people that made it, that are earning their life fully through dancing, and that are having good jobs and so on. But it's a small percentage of the people that are actually dancing. And then even less of these people have a contract that is giving them security for, let's say, 3 years. Even less have a contract that gives them security for their whole work career. Yeah, something that was common before, that, for example, you were a dancer in a theater, and it was just clear you can stay in this theater for the rest of your life, because of your working life, because when you're done dancing as a ballet dancer, who's not working as long as a contemporary dancer, which can also be a factor why there's more supply than demand, So if you stop as a ballet dancer with the old contract, you would be diverted into another job in the theater. You would be able to stay in the theater and you would work something else. There's lots and lots of different jobs in the theater, and you could do one of these jobs. So you had a very high security, but this is very uncommon nowadays. And I heard that in Scandinavia and Sweden is still happening stuff like this, but at least in Germany this is very common. And anyway, like many theaters are getting rid of dancers more than they are hiring, and it's hard to get something like a 3-year contract. So the dancers that I know, if they can, they are constantly traveling, and the ones that have children, yeah, that's not so easy to have children in the dance world. It's not a world that is very friendly, like very very friendly for workers, that has very friendly work conditions. Yeah, like there's very little ethics about work, and also about clarity when things start and when it stops, and rehearsals take longer and start later and blah blah blah. It's all this artsy stuff that works a bit different than when you work in the office and you go from here to this point, then you can go home, which is okay, of course, but I have the feeling this can be more professionalized. Yeah. Okay, so my question that I want to put into the universe is it maybe unethical or a problem that dance schools are creating so many dancers? Because the problem that dancers have, these precarious problems, these economic problems that many dancers have, would not exist if there would be less professional dancers. But a dance school actually is not caring so much about what happens to the dancers after. They're just producing dancers and earn their money through producing dancers, because the dancers are usually paying, or maybe they get a stipendium, how's it called, stipend or something. They get some money from the state, yeah. Some of the dancers, blah 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 blah, and this is how the dance schools stay alive. So of course it would be difficult for a dance school to say, oh no, we are just creating like 10, maybe even less, like 5 dancers a year, because if all the dance schools create 5 dancers a year, that's enough. Like that's enough, because if we create more, then the dancers that come out of a dance school will have problems. Will face problems getting jobs, and so on and so forth. So let's say let's have this utopian view that this would be possible. Yeah. Okay. Maybe this is much easier than being said, but that is something to think about. Like if you're the director of a dance school, to realize, wait a second, it's very hard in the dance world to get enough jobs to sustain yourself, and not just sustain yourself on the bottom, where it would be actually the same. You would get the same money if you would not work. You would get the same money in a welfare state like Germany if you wouldn't do any work. Yeah. The same. Yeah, but even something more like this, that you feel really appreciated by society also for your work, and you feel some meaning in what you're doing, not just through the art, but also through getting back from society more than a few claps. Because clapping is nice, but when you wake up in the morning and the fridge is empty, then yeah, clapping doesn't help. So directors of dance schools should think about this, should consider this. I don't say that this can be easily solved, this problem, but I feel this problem exists, that supply and demand are not properly matching, and that you could say that dance schools are acting in a sense unethical, or at least should be very aware of that either many people that come out of the dance school should do something else, so the supply gets less and helps the other people that stay in the dance world, or everyone will struggle with this supply and demand, besides the prodigies, besides the people that are very unique and can offer something very unique or have the right contacts and so on and so forth. So it's less of a winner takes it all than in other things, but it still goes a bit into the direction of winner takes it all in the dance world, although it's much less than in something like music or painting, maybe also, or writing. Writing is a big winner takes it all thing. Okay, yeah, but then on the other hand, it's also maybe important that many people go through the dance education, because you cannot filter before. You don't know who will be the ones that are like exceptional, that are very interesting, that are very unique. You don't know before. You have to bring them through the system, and then it can be seen. Or then the fight starts, and the people that are better connected and more unique, they will and have the stronger like fighting drive. They will get further and hopefully get to the point where they can live a good life from dancing. Because I think that would be fair. It's a hard job, and it's not just drinking coffee, although for some people it is just drinking coffee because they don't have many jobs. Okay, thanks for listening.